Uh, Good evening, everyone. I'm Dr. Pritesh. I'm the chemistry faculty at 10X International School. And today I will be walking you through what it means to think in terms of STEAMH. Many of us tend to look at subjects as isolated islands. This is chemistry, this is physics, this is maths, this is history, or this is English. But at 10x, what we do is we look at a problem and then solve it. Doesn't matter which subject comes to your rescue. It often happens that when we look at islands, all we can see is the sea between the islands. In STEAMH approach, we see bridges, one island connected through to the other through multiple bridges. And that is the STEAMH philosophy, where all the subjects come together, join hands, and our aim is to solve the problem. Next. Um, Now, it's a very valid question as to what is STEAMH and why it matters. Now, science has a particular way of looking at the world, and it tells you how the world works around you. Human beings have been eternally curious about how this works or that. But to give you an example, there were hundreds of years between when we came up with the idea of a cell making up all living beings and being able to actually observe, because what was lacking was technology. So, technology is what extends the human capacity to observe and understand the world around us. So, there walks in the T. But now technology depends on someone to make the instruments that can enable us. And that's where engineering comes in. Now, engineers build a lot of different things like buildings, machines, etc. There is an aesthetic aspect to it. Not everything appeals to everyone because all of us have different sensibilities, and that's where arts come in. It gives meaning to what we are doing, it gives perspective to what we are observing. Language, and very important part, you may know a lot, but if you're not able to communicate it further, it all dies with you. So there come in arts, and nearly nothing is possible without mathematics. It's the language which makes sense when you start to understand the universe around you. But science without ethics is just plain dangerous. And that's where it really matters that where we apply science, how much we apply and who it benefits becomes really important. What values do we hold close to our heart? Humanities is what gives it that societal and humanitarian perspective. Yeah, next. Now, we don't look at STEAMH as a way to study. It's actually a way to live. All of us are STEAMH practitioners without actually realizing it, as I will demonstrate to you in the forthcoming slides. But it's a way to live curiously, where you want to understand what is happening around the world. It's a way to live creatively, where you can come up with solutions to the problems at an individual, societal, and global level. And then it's a way to live ethically, where you're doing right by the people who you are serving. We want to be connected to each other and we want it to be connected to the rest of the world, our surroundings, everything. It's a way to live with awareness. You are aware of yourself and of your surroundings. Next. Okay, now this is just a question we thought we should get some perspective from you about. In one word, what do you want your child's education to prepare them for? What do you think is that one thing that your child's education should make them ready for in the future? Let me see some answers. Okay.
Someone wrote in comments saying preparedness and adaptability, uncertainties.
To survive. Interesting. Mm-hmm. Uncertain ways of life. Very nice. Face the challenges.
Also, others commented that unknown challenges and future challenges.
Okay, so I see a pattern here. That is, we don't know what is coming, uncertainty. And if you look up a little bit on the internet, you will find this acronym, which is hanging. Am I clear? Am I audible clearly to everybody?
Yes, yes, Pritesh.
Okay. Yeah. So the world that is coming, particularly with the backdrop of AI, is is volatile. We don't know what will tomorrow look like. There is so much uncertainty. There are things changing at a breakneck pace. This coming world is uncertain. The technology is changing on a daily basis. There is something new coming up all the time. There is complexity. What you do today affects some unknown number of people tomorrow, and ambiguous. There are no clear answers out there for any of your questions. So, in this VUCA world, which is volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous, our only toolkit that will keep us relevant, that will help us survive, that will help us thrive, and that will help us remain happy and human is constant learning. We should be ready to very quickly learn and adapt. And that is why at 10x, we promote STEAM Edge as not just a way of studying, but as a mindset itself. The moment you look at a problem, you break it down into its smaller components that will help you tackle the larger problem. Now, all of us have made a sandwich at some point in our lives, for sure. Now, if I was to give you certain ingredients, or you just walk into your kitchen and you want to make yourself a sandwich, I think nearly none of us realize you are applying science, technology, engineering, art, math, and humanities to make that sandwich, especially if you're making it for someone else or one more person is involved. Now, let me see some inputs from you. If you were to make a sandwich, what would you do? Let's say you have some cucumbers, some sauces, some onions, maybe some cheese slices, and you're supposed to just put together a sandwich. How would you go about it? Okay, I don't know if I can see the answers
Uh,
here.
there is
Uh,
comment option. If parents want to engage, just use the
yes.
comment option to just send in your replies. I will let you know, Pritesh, what inputs come in.
Yeah, sure. Okay, yeah, you can go to the next one, Praveen. Thank you. Okay, now when I threw this question out to the students, very interesting replies came. So students had a disagreement about where do the sauces go. Some students had a disagreement about where does the tomato go, where does the cheese go. And when I made them unpack this idea, they realized they were using science, technology, EAM, and H continuously. For instance, they put a sandwich together. So I made them into a group of three, three, three each. And one student said, tomato ketchup should not go next to the bread because it has too much water. It will make the bread soggy. The other two had not thought about that. They put tomato ketchup and then they put the cheese slice. Then somebody said, if I put the cheese slice next to the bread, the cheese will not stick on it and my sandwich will fall apart. So you realize once they become deliberate about thinking about what they are doing, once they become aware, they can come up with better solutions faster and they can collaborate better. because all of them are using logic as the bedrock for solving a particular problem. Now, here I had put it in a funny way, where the children were trying to unpack as to what they are doing. So when I threw it that way, that you're making sandwiches for a guest who is lactose intolerant, and you've happily put cheese and mayo there, both of which have milk in it, that becomes inappropriate for the guest that you have. This is what is the most important human quality. And that is why at 10x, we've gone farther from STEM, which was the older way of thinking: science, technology, engineering, and math. We also incorporate art and humanities, because science without cultural context just seems inappropriate to the people who it is supposed to be benefiting from. So once the children started paying attention to what they were doing, they were suddenly coming up with better solutions, and they collaborated better. Because one student said, "Oh, my math is not great. Can someone help me? What kind of proportions should go there?" And the third student immediately jumped in. "Yeah, I know. I think you should use this, you should use that." So, what the STEAM approach also does is it makes them aware of where they need help, and they are not scared to seek it. I think we need a cohesive society like that, where student people are not scared to join hands and try to address a problem. Yeah. Next, Praveen. So, if you have isolated knowledge in these different disciplines, you will probably come up with a functioning sandwich, but that will not be your best output. In order to give it your best, a cohesive, collaborative approach is the way forward. Yeah. Next. Okay, so now here again is a question where I would like your perspective, that if your child had to solve a problem tomorrow, which skill would you want them to lead with? Of the options that you see, would you want them to be very creative, critical thinkers, good collaborators, or ethical? Yeah, please, parents, it would be very nice to hear from you. Okay, I see that a lot of parents seem to want critical thinking to be their approach, collaboration. Thank you, Deepti. Okay, so I see that critical thinking is one of the approaches that you parents seem to value a lot. Yes, thanks, Kusum. So now critical thinking is not a single discipline in which, one day you are not thinking critically and the next day you are. Creativity, I'm glad to see that. Yes, collaboration, creativity, and critical thinking. The thing with critical thinking is it has an aspect of understanding various perspectives of the same thing, which again is a prerequisite for somebody to think creatively. And once you have multiple perspectives of the same problem, collaboration becomes almost imperative and much easier. We have to understand that. And of course, ethics is also very important. Science without ethics is not something that we want in this world. So, a STEAM-edged thinker would have avoided this simple issue, like a bad sandwich, by just paying deliberate attention to the various aspects of something as mundane and as simple as making a sandwich. So once we start paying attention that these are the different components that go into solving a problem, we can be more deliberate and aware of what we need to do. Yeah, next. Now, I think all of us lived through COVID-19, and if not for the STEAM H approach to problem solving, we would still be grappling with the effects of COVID-19. This was one time when the entire world held hands, where science came up with the vaccine. Tech made it possible to manufacture those vaccines at a large scale. Engineering made the dispersal possible to the farthest corners of different, inaccessible countries. Humanities, where people joined hands, came together, and we were empathetic so that everybody got a slice of the vaccine pie. Mathematics was important, where a lot of mathematical models were used to decide which communities to target first. For example, children, vulnerable, pregnant women, older citizens. So it became very important for all of us to join hands. And of course, the language, where vaccines were distributed, the ad campaigns were run in various languages and very effectively in an engaging manner so that people would come forward, take the vaccine, and we could handle the pandemic. This significantly shortened the time. And of course, tech stepped up in connecting us online. I think all of us will remember Zoom for that. That is the time when Zoom really ruled the world. I mean, of course, lots of debacles happened, but then that is when tech came forward to make sure that we did not go into isolation from each other. We still remained connected and we still remained functional. Yeah, next. Now, there are a couple of very beautiful examples of how STEAMET approach has helped the most routine people solve the most local problems in the most global thinking way possible. William Kamkwamba from Kenya, he became the beacon of hope for people around him. And it's in a very good both book and a movie or series, I'm not sure. The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind. Now he realized that the place where he lived, there was ample wind throughout the year, but people were grappling with problems like frequent electricity cuts, not clean drinking water. So he, without realizing, came up with a very steam edge approach to solving an extremely local problem. So the first thing he did was he tried to find the local materials which will help him build turbine. It was a very trial and error approach. As if you read the book, it's quite inspiring. So he used the upcycled available materials, built these wind turbines, and then he made sure that his community participated. He understood the need of the people around him and was successful in implementing it because he was thinking with an extremely steam edge integrated approach. Now, on the other hand, if he had been thinking only about science and just didn't care that it mattered to his people, he probably would have solved a problem, not the problem. And that is where the STEAMET approach has to become an everyday thing. And it is actually integrated in all our lives. And if you ask your children deliberately, they will break it down. Children are actually very creative creatures. It's just that we compartmentalize their education as information. But education now is and should be more than just information. Yeah, next. And of course, if you ask your children, they will tell you about Minecraft, how important it has been, and all of them have played it. So Marcus Persson, the creator of Minecraft, he was quite fascinated by construction, just building things. And that is the reason he came up with this game, Minecraft, which became a huge sensation. Yeah, next, Praveen, to the next slide. Now, if we break down that game, again, it does have all the steam edge components and particularly the humanities. He was thinking in terms of culture, in terms of ethics, and the fact that everybody should be able to relate with the emotion behind the game. And as a reason, it became hugely appealing to pretty much all age brackets and especially children. And so much so that now his game is not used just for gaming, but to teach architecture, to teach coding as to how engaging the outputs of codings can be, and even urban planning. So this is one of the success stories where STEAMET approach became a part of someone's work and then built something so phenomenal that the whole world adapted to it. Yeah, next. Now, just a fun question for all the parents. Now, how many lines of codes do you think it takes to run Minecraft? Take a wild guess. Give me a number in millions. Okay, 6 to 8. Yeah, I see a 5. Okay, interesting, interesting. Very good. Oh, lovely. Yeah. So just to give you an idea, anything from 2 to 5 million lines of code is what it takes. And look at the phenomenal impact it had on everybody. And no success story, I think, is complete without mentioning Steve Jobs. Okay. He was, again, a very creative person who allowed people around him to identify the need and solve the problems creatively. iPhone became a sensation. And before that, of course, we had the iPod. What he recognized was it is so nice to carry music around with you. And that need, although it seemed like niche, suddenly got adapted everywhere because music as an art has almost universal appeal. So this was one of those times where art led technology, where it told people that music is important, and there are so many types of music that people relate to local music. So I could have all kinds of music on iTunes, choose, pick, and select, and then make my own playlist, right? So when we talk about iPhone, it pioneered the technology of battery chemistry, its own apps, its own software, connection to internet. And then we should not forget the art aspect, the beauty, the usability, and the intuitive experience. Just designing the user interface where even a layperson can figure out what to do, Steve Jobs completely redefined. And not just that, every region had customized apps available, which made it so sensitive that people all across the world wanted to buy a product which seemed expensive, but they saw the utility in it. Okay, so he also became one of those beacons of when you take a steam edge approach to solving a problem or to designing a product, you really can break global barriers. Next. So now, once again, I want your perspective. Now, schools today seem to probably over-focus on exams instead of preparing students for life. Now, this is my opinion, because whenever I have a conversation with students, their inputs are, I just want to score and be done with it. Okay, I'm glad to see that there are parents who strongly disagree. Okay, so now I think we are at that cusp of civilization where isolated knowledge is very rapidly becoming obsolete. It does not matter how much math you know. If you don't know how to apply it in real life, your 99 out of 100 on your marks card is not going to make a difference. What matters is, can you solve a problem with the knowledge that you have acquired? So, knowledge plus experience plus critical thinking is what makes wisdom. So now what we need are humane, wise individuals, because all the mundane tasks AI is here to do. Yeah. Next slide. Right. Now, what's the one real world problem you care about that could benefit from a STEAM edge mindset? I would like the parents' output, and then I will tell you what the children came up with. It was quite phenomenal. Anything that you think of, climate change or whatever it is that you really care about, that you think will benefit from a STEAM edge mindset. Water shortage, yeah. Innovation. Could you elaborate a little bit? That would be helpful. Yes, parents, come on, I'm listening. It will be nice to hear your inputs. Creativity put to use and not wasted. Okay. Oh, I am glad you mentioned Bangalore traffic. Okay, personal finance. So the recognition of a local problem with global consequences, Bangalore traffic definitely falls there. Yes. Inflation. Okay. Electricity shortage. Very, very good. Spread of misinformation. Yes, I'm impressed. Thank you. Yeah, so when we had given this task to students, they gave us very interesting inputs. There were some students, so they were in groups of three again: deforestation, fast fashion waste, social media, and teen mental health, because they are at the eye of the storm right now. They are directly affected by it. Food insecurity in urban areas, AI and job losses, because it is their future, right? So what we did was we put the students in groups of three, assigned their chosen problem to them, and then asked them to solve it. And once they had already sat through a presentation about STEAM Edge where they were made aware that you need to think about it, students came up with great ideas about how to tackle different things. They are acutely aware that the forest cover is rapidly shrinking. So they came up with things like we need an alternative for wood, which should be made from recycled waste. Otherwise, we will just keep on cutting trees. And in this, there are a few students who have come up with very good ideas about using even something as simple as kitchen waste to convert to something like wood through some processes to make sure that we are not cutting new trees. We already have biological waste. If we could reuse that, that would be great. I was personally quite impressed with their fast fashion waste awareness as well. With them cycling their t-shirts and jeans at a breakneck speed, all that waste cloth has to go somewhere, and it has already been processed with different types of colors, patterns, stitches, synthetic combination of fibers, etc. It is virtually unrecyclable. So they really have thought about all the dyes that leach into water bodies, etc. In food and food insecurity in urban areas, they came up with ideas like local food banks and the food banks that are monitored by students on a daily basis. So they took ownership that, yes, I have identified the problem, but what am I going to do about it? And that is where humanities becomes very important. All of them recognize that if they spend just 2 hours per week in rotation, they will be able to make sure that all the extra food that is donated by their community reaches the right people, which I think is such a beautiful idea for students to own that, yes, I am a part of the problem and I am going to solve it. Yeah. So they all blended it into one integrated solution. They were given a week's time where they came up with a very, very, good, implementable, tangible, sustainable idea for solving all these real life problems. And they didn't have technical know-how, by the way. So they knew that there were some people they had to approach who could help them with this technology aspect or maybe math aspect. So they were aware and they were ready to seek help. In short, they were ready to collaborate, to adapt, which is the most important skill going forward. Next. Now, as somebody had mentioned, Bangalore traffic. Now, on an average, a student at 10x spends about 1.5 hours commuting every day. Not because the distances are long, but because the traffic is just insane. Now, once they recognized that need, how would you, for instance, resort and solve this problem as an individual? The students are not policymakers. They knew they could not directly solve it. But as individuals, what contribution could they make in solving this larger problem? This really does need the whole city to come together to solve, because it is not a problem which is on one road. It is everywhere and everyone is affected by it. Yeah, next. And this is where they came up with these points. So once they knew they had uh, a problem at hand, they wanted to first of all identify the traffic hotspots using things like air and noise sensors and tracking the health impacts. Many of us tend to become a part of the problem because we don't know that we are becoming a part of the problem. Awareness is always step number one. So students were in the right direction thinking about it. Then technology. So one of the students came up with an idea of an app which was similar to Google Maps, which gives them alternatives to how to find out what my least carbon footprint route is going to be if I have to go from point A to point B. Then they came up with ideas like bike lanes, e-bus chargers, and smart junctions. This city is notoriously pedestrian unfriendly. They felt that people tend to take bikes and cars even for short distances because it's just so difficult to walk. Then they actually made these beautiful campaign ads and challenges for people to understand and identify that there is a way to solve the problem and I can do it. Then they did come up with the mathematical flow as well, that if we have this point to this point, there is no other alternative road. So people end up taking the same road, which is a perpetual problem in Sarjapur Road, which we take every day to reach 10x. So since they were directly affected, they came up with very creative ideas, including policy briefs. So they had ideas like this particular company should give this much work from home because they are on the same road. School doesn't have that much choice, so school has to be every day. So companies can have these kind of policies to reduce the traffic load. So essentially, what they did was they measured, they built, they optimized, they inspired people to take alternative pathways, and they guided policy. These are the kind of students we need for tomorrow. Yeah, next. Now, once again, STEAM Edge is not really a curriculum. It's a mindset. It's a toolkit we are providing to our children for solving problems, for connecting with people, and to become wiser, to think critically, to be skeptical of everything until compelling evidence comes their way that what they are doing is the right thing to do. Next. Right? So now again, a question. We all, I think, have children. Now pin where you think your child spends most of their learning time. Do they spend it through textbooks? Do they go on to technology? Do they collaborate with their classmates? Or do they just spend time creatively thinking about, okay, I see tech is getting dots. Mix of all. Thank you, Shilpa. Collaborating, very nice. I would like to assume that dot is for technology. Okay, so few of us do think that our children is spending time on technology. Now, this is not something we can actually avoid going forward. Yes, thank you, Kusum. So, AI is just going to be everywhere. So, as a conscious campaign before AI reduces their critical thinking capability, at 10x, there are seminars held, and every single lesson that we have builds in the culture of ethics, where we talk to students about what and how much technology to use under what circumstances. Because it is very convenient, it is very easy, it's faster to just let tech do the job. But remember, tech doesn't have a heart, it doesn't have a mind. It may have speed, it may have efficiency, but at the end of the day, as humans, what matters is humane values. Yeah. Next. Right. So at the end of this entire thing, I hope you realize that subjects are really not at a war. If our common goal is to solve a problem, subjects are beautiful pieces that come together to solve a problem which would have been impossible for any of them to solve by themselves. That is what brings me to a limits of solo act. So when you come across a student saying that, okay, I am studying chemistry or I am studying, let's say, history. History is a beautiful way to look at the problems, the difficulties we have had in the past and not to repeat them. And now the most pressing need, the climate crisis, right? Science, if it was alone, it could understand the problem. But without people coming together, without the mathematical models, without technology assisting it, cannot do it. Math alone cannot do it. It can model, it can tell you in how many years we will run out of fossil fuels. But without think tanks coming together, without technology improving the cars we have or the houses we have, it cannot inspire change. Now, you can communicate the issue all you like, but if there is no way to solve the problem, it'll remain just that communication. Now, design, it can build beautiful design, but unless it is coming from a place of having understood the problem intimately and knowing what we have to solve for. Design cannot solve it alone. Humanities, it can make you feel very invigorated, very agitated that this problem needs to solve, but it cannot implement action. Now you can, you know, plant all the posters you want. You can just paste posters here, make advertisements that run on the TV. But unless something is done, that whole exercise is going to go waste. So, real problems don't need good solo players. What it needs is an orchestra or of all of us coming together and creating a beautiful symphony. Yeah, next. Yeah. Now, there are some few skills we thought were very important for child's future. So, which one do you think is most important for your child? Okay, digital literacy, innovation. Okay. Oh, quite a few winners with innovation. Okay. Communication and empathy. Yes. Problem solving. Okay. Yeah. So, I see that I think all of us are pretty much on the same page about this. Now, in life, no problem comes with the question, are you good at math? Are you good at English? As an example, while you're doing your job, how many of you go back to your mark sheet from school and think, oh, I got this many marks, so I can solve this problem? It pretty much never happens. The problems give you very few questions. Can you think? Do you care? Can you create a solution? And that is what we need to target. That is what we target as teachers at 10x. Now, let me give you an example. Again, it will become subject specific. So, chemistry is quite notorious for having lots of formulae, lots of equations. And I can't tell you the number of people who've come and told me, I hate organic chemistry or I hate chemistry for this reason, that reason. I am very used to it. So when I taught them just balancing of the equations, they were very puzzled as to where am I ever going to use this in life. And I knew I had a problem at hand. If I don't explain to these children, they will not engage with the subject. So something as simple as when I'm writing an equation of burning of methane, they were like, Miss, what are we going to do with this? So here is your answer. Methane is the piped natural gas that we get in our house. You can take that or you can take LPG. Nearly all of us use it. Now, the burner in which you burn methane has to have a cavity appropriately sized so that oxygen can mix with that gas and burn in such a way that you don't have any carbon deposition in your stoves. It shouldn't turn black over time. The flame should be blue and transparent and not yellow, because yellow is an indication that your fuel is not burning well. You are wasting it. But the more critical aspect, if the burner is not well designed, you will end up having part combustion. That is, the fuel is not burning properly and it's making carbon monoxide. And the collective gasp of the class was worth listening to. That is when they first time realized that if the burner is not well designed, if I am not aware of what I'm doing, I could kill my entire family without an odor, without a color, without a clue. Well ventilated kitchens are required for this reason because bad combustion of fuel can lead to poisonous gases being formed, which are both colorless and odorless. So, when I made that first connection between balancing equations and actual real life solutions, which is the steam etch approach, that is how you understand what am I going to do with what I'm studying sitting here in front of my teacher. What is she talking about? Why is she teaching me this? So we don't have to just give information, we have to impart wisdom. We have to make the subject to real life connection so that tomorrow, when the children look at their burner in their house and see a yellow flame coming out, they can immediately alert their parents that, Mama, I think this is not going well. Dad, I think we need to have our burner looked at. And that is the steam etch approach of thinking. Yeah, next, Pravi. Okay, now this is again just to get a perspective. Now, if you had 100 points across these different areas, what matters most for wherever your child is studying right now? Academics, life skills, innovation, and values. So you can just distribute those 100 points among these four. Okay, academics is a front runner. Innovation, interesting. Nice. Okay, so I do see that some of your children's schools do pay a lot of attention to innovation. And that is one way we also look at things at 10x. It is important for us that children should be able to apply their wisdom for their betterment and the society's betterment. What use is knowledge if it is not benefiting the person who can't speak for themselves? Right? So, just to give you an idea, one of the students in our school who himself struggled with understanding how is it that I decide that I need to filter this out of my, let's say, a polluted water. He came up with a flow chart, a website in which you could enter that what are the likely pollutants in your yeah, thank you, Deepthi. So, what are the likely pollutants in water around them? He came up with a flow chart as to how to filter them out so that at the end, I have drinking clean water in my house. And that then I used as a teaching aid to the younger children who really appreciated the empathy of this older student who realized that this is something I had trouble understanding, so I'm sure others have trouble understanding as well. And that is the kind of values we want to give to our children. That when you see a problem and you have the know how, you should come forward, take an initiative to solve it, think creatively, use your technology information, use your resources to come up with a solution. So I'm really glad that your students, your children are into schools which value innovation quite a lot. Thank you so much for your participation in this. Yeah. Next, Ravi. Okay, now here, thank you, Shilpa. Um, now, where does your child's school sit today on approaches? That is teaching approach. One being rote, that they just want to teach the textbook to the child and just be done with the exams. And 10 being exploratory, that they want students to explore things at leisure so that they understand the point of studying. And the future readiness, is their aim exams, or is their exam aim lifelong learning? Do they want students to remain eternal learners? Now, what kind of assessment do you think your school takes? Memory tests where you just memorize everything, go there and point things out, or projects where problems lead your knowledge? Okay. And the curriculum, do you think it is isolated or is it integrated? Does it integrate various approaches into one? And what about skills? Do they focus on recall or do they focus on creativity? So these are the ends of the spectrum I am pointing out. And let's see where all of you think your school's future readiness versus approach sits. Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I see that you all think that your school sits in that top right quadrant where the approach is largely exploratory and the future readiness is high. Okay, I see the numbers moving a little bit. Yeah, so at 10x, our goal is to sit in that top quadrant where the approach is as exploratory as possible and the future readiness is as high as possible. We aim to provide students with that toolkit, with that approach of, okay, this is the problem and I need to solve it. They quickly break it down into its components, gather the required resources, whether it is self or some other resources that you need to gather together, and then solve the problem. So that critical thinking approach, that humane approach, where we are trying to understand the perspective of the people whose problems these are, that is where 10x aspires to be. Yeah. Next. Yeah, so that was the STEAM approach that I wanted to talk about. And